Islamic leaders and clergies have told Muslims that Islam is the last and most perfect religion. Is it really true? Do they have any logical, doctrinal, philosophical, spiritual, or social reason for their claims? What does perfect mean in Islam? Does it mean that Islam has answered the questions of life better than all other religions? Does it mean that Islam has brought new things and more good news which were absent in the religions before Islam? What new perfect things Islam has brought which other religions before Islam did not have, so that Islam could claim perfection because of them? Have you, as a Muslim, ever thought about this question and have come up with any response to it? You know, each one of us is responsible to discover the reasons for our claims if we want to have confidence personally or be clear in our stand to our family members and others. Let me tell you briefly in the introduction, before explaining my reasons, that not only has Islam not brought good new things, but also trampled the good old religious values which were from Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Islam's claim for perfection is nothing but propaganda. Let us go together now and see my reasons. The first reason that Islam cannot be the perfect religion is because it ascribes illogical things to God. How does Islam introduce God? Surah Al-Hashr in verses 23 and 24 says that God is holy, peaceful, majestic, and wise. But Surah Ali Imran in verse 54 and Al-Imfal in verse 30 say that God is the best of deceivers. Surah Al-Baqarah in verse 225, Surah Ali Imran in verse 28, Surah An-Nahl in verse 106 all say that God sanctioned Muslims to lie in some circumstances. Can you see the huge contradiction between these verses? On one hand, God is called holy, peaceful, majestic, and wise, but on the other hand, he is called the best of deceivers. How can God be holy, peaceful, majestic, and wise in nature, and in the meantime a deceiver too? Can a deceiving God be called majestic and wise? God is called holy because he hates deception and never deceives. A perfect God does not sanction deception and lying. And a perfect religion never calls God a deceiver or liar. If you call God a deceiver, it means that he is not perfect. How then can the religion of an imperfect God be called a perfect religion? Do you call a man perfect if he teaches deception and lying? Do you call his belief a perfect belief? You don't. It is the same with Islam. Since Islam calls God a deceiver and liar, it cannot be a perfect religion. The second reason that Islam cannot be the perfect religion is because it does not have a more perfect response to the questions of life than other religions. Islam's view of life on earth, Judgment Day, and afterlife is not any better than other religions which focus on people's deeds concerning salvation. Why then Islam is called more perfect than others? Like all other religions before Islam, Islam also taught Muslims that life on earth was a battleground between good and evil, and salvation was based on continuous purification by good deeds in this world. The teachings about the judgment day and afterlife were also more or less similar. Actually, the other religions were better than Islam in this regard. Unlike Islam, they did not teach that imposing religion on others or killing them would lead to paradise. In comparison with the faith in Christ, Islam is utterly unable to claim perfection over Christianity. The gospel says that Jesus is sinless, alive, in heaven, and is therefore the way to life and heaven. But the Quran never speaks about Muhammad like this. The Quran actually confirms that Jesus is sinless, alive, and in heaven, but never teaches people to follow Jesus for his amazing qualities. Instead, it asks people to follow Muhammad, who was sinner, died, and is not in heaven. It is crystal clear that Christianity, with a sinless and eternally living leader, is more perfect than Islam, with a sinful leader who died in uncertainty. So you can see that Islam does not have any better instructions for the purity of life on earth or for the judgment day and afterlife than other religions. Therefore, to call Islam the perfect religion is unwise. The third reason that Islam cannot be called perfect is because it destroys all the one God believing religions in the Arabian Peninsula and the neighboring countries. The followers of one God believing religions were scattered all over the Arabian Peninsula until Islam was established. These religions were called Abrahamic religions. Surah Al-Mu'minun in verses 84 to 90 and Surah Luqman in verses 24 and 25 can confirm that many Arab nationals believed in one God. Instead of defending these Abrahamic religions, Islam destroyed them and forced their followers to join Islam. The religion of Hanif is one example. Hanif was the name of a famous religious group which proclaimed belief in the God of Abraham and rejected polytheistic worship. They were Arabs and from Muhammad's own tribe, Quraysh. Muhammad's own life story written by Ibn Ishaq confirms that Hanifis believed in one God and were the followers of the religion of Abraham. After Muhammad brought Islam, he also called his religion the religion of Abraham, despite trampling other Abrahamic beliefs. Hanifis were stronger than Muhammad in their belief about the oneness of God. They were totally against any kind of idol worship and strongly believed that God was one. But Muhammad asked Muslims to worship 3 idols while he was in Mecca. He recited a verse in Surah An-Najm, which was after verse 19. It said that the 3 idols of Allah, the goddess of fertility, Al-Uzza, the goddess of power, and Manat, the goddess of faith, were divine beings assisting Allah in his work. Upon saying this, Muhammad and his followers bowed down to these idols and worshiped them. You see that the Quran asked Muhammad and his followers to worship 3 idols besides God. Muslims in Mecca worshipped these idols under Muhammad's leadership for some time until they migrated to Medina. In Medina, Muhammad confessed that this particular verse of the Quran was from Satan. Neither Hanifis, nor Christians, nor Jews, nor Zoroastrians, nor Sabbaites believed nor practiced idol worship. They rejected it strongly. Their spiritual stand about the oneness of God was higher than the stand of Muhammad. Not only did Muhammad not appreciate their strong stand about the one God belief, but rather forced them to follow Islam. How can then Islam, with its idol worship and war on one God beliefs, be called more perfect than these religions which stayed away from every kind of idol worship? It cannot be. Anyhow, the idol worship verse was removed from the Quran later. After the death of Muhammad, this verse was removed from the Quran by Muhammad's successors. They believed it was from Satan and had to be removed. Islamic ancient scholars have reserved the verse in their books, and we still have access to them. The exact verse reads thus: "These are the exalted females, and truly their intercession may be expected." For what reason did Muhammad sanction idol worship? The major reason for him was political pressure. He lost his encouraging and loyal wife Khadija and his uncle Abu Talib, who were like shields for him against the pressures of idol worshippers whom he criticized in Mecca. As a result, he felt lonely, became more vulnerable to the pressures by the Meccan leaders against him and his Muslim friends. Because of this difficulty, he decided to make a slight change to his politics in order to gain the favor of his opponents. For this reason, he legitimized the worship of these three important Quraysh idols. This caused him to be safe in Mecca for some time until he fled to Medina. No matter for what reason Muhammad and his followers worship idols, in spirituality it is called creating partners for God. Neither Abraham, nor Moses, nor Jesus, who were before Muhammad, sanctioned any idol worship, but Muhammad and the Quran sanctioned it, though for a short time. You see that the Islam of Muhammad was not the most perfect religion among other religions. The claim for perfection was and has been just a political propaganda, though against the heart of God. The fourth reason that Islam cannot be a perfect religion is because of its harsh relationship with people. I have already covered in my previous talks that Islam sanctions the practice of husbands beating their wives. This was unacceptable to Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Does loving your wife and dealing with her like a human being make your religion a perfect religion, or beating her? Islam cannot be the perfect religion. Islam also sanctions that whatever Muhammad taught, people must blindly obey. This is also not acceptable in the faith of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Islam also teaches children to disregard the guardianship of their parents if their parents are not committed to Islam. This attitude cannot be called perfect, since it is against the will of God, who has created people with the freedom of choice and asked children to honor their parents. Islam also sanctions that Muslims should wipe out all other religions and force people to follow Islam. So you see that Islam not only is not better than the previous religions, but instead it is harsher and more imperfect in its approach to families or others. Islam has stripped itself of perfect values. Conscience calls love, joy, forgiveness, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, the perfect things in relationship. Why? Because these behaviors bring people together in order to engage themselves in a creative way to find the best, live in peace together, and enjoy each other's company. But Islam restricts these behaviors. Islam's behavior to its opponents and non-Muslim is torture and destruction. Islam gives more rights to husbands and instructs them to beat their wives. Islam is a threat to the sincere love between one husband and one wife and instructs a man to have multiple wives. Islam is a threat to moderate Muslims, to non-Muslims, and to all who do not align themselves with Islamic values. With these harsh attitudes, Islam cannot be called perfect. The fifth reason that Islam cannot be a perfect religion is because it does not give assurance of salvation. While assurance of salvation is the most important message of God, Islam lacks it. No Muslim can speak about his or her afterlife with confidence. The God of Islam left even his beloved Muhammad in uncertainty, and he died with fear about his future. The God of Islam is not able to save his faithful ones in their life on earth and make their happiness perfect. No one calls uncertainty and the fear behind it perfect things. The God of a perfect religion must perform his mission perfectly, save people in their life on earth, and give them confidence and joy. Isn't it disappointing that the God of Islam assures Muslims 100% that those who follow Satan will go to hell, but never assures any of his righteous Muslim followers 100% will go to paradise? All the followers of the Bible, either a prophet or a simple follower, have the assurance of salvation and going to heaven or paradise. How then can Islam be more perfect than other religions without the assurance of salvation? It is impossible. The word perfect is a beautiful and encouraging word, but it is so often used aberrantly. Islam is one of those religions that irrationally relates perfect to itself. There are many people and beliefs in this world that call themselves perfect. But it is our personal responsibility to test their claims and discover whether they are sincere in their claims or not. With this, we'll be able to save ourselves and our family from untruth. Insincerity is bad, no matter if it is from our own belief, family, forefathers, or from others. We need to be aware of it and protect ourselves from it. You see that committed Muslim leaders from both Sunni and Shia sects have been calling Islam the perfect religion for 1400 years. But their actions have proven that they cannot be sincere in their claim. The leaders of one group calls the followers of the other group infidels or kafirs, which means they have to be wiped out according to the Quran. In the past 1400 years, these two groups have killed millions of each other's followers. If Islam is the perfect religion, why are they unable to extract any perfect relational value from their perfect religion, which can obligate them to believe in each other's autonomy, respect one another, and live in peace with each other? The problem is not theirs. The problem is at the root of Islam. It is Islam that has sanctioned the looting and the destructions of those who think differently. If the Quran was like the gospel of Jesus Christ, which sanctions the love of opponents and enemies, no Muslim would desire the death of anyone. Alas, the Quran is not like the gospel. There is no logical reason to call Islam the last and perfect religion.